Hey everybody, so I want to do a video that talks about cash purchases in real estate. And the old saying, right, cash is king. There's definitely some truth to it, but then there is, on the flip side, it's actually not as powerful as what people may think. So got my license in 2018 for real estate. And, you know, at that time, market was, well, that's all I knew, and it was probably very regular, right? If you got an offer within a couple days, consider fantastic. And then, you know, all of a sudden 2020 to 2022 came along, and it was like, if you didn't get 7 offers in a day, and 2 of them being cash, you know, it was a bad listing. And now we're back to the point where, hey, listen, yes, if you can actually get an offer, you know, within a couple days, you're doing well. Maybe even paying a little bit of closing costs. But often we run into people, both buyers and sellers, that think that there's this, you know, cash is just this some magical thing that gets them more money. And I think, or makes their offer more powerful or something like that. And this is where I kind of butt heads a little bit. And the reason is, like, financing these days is streamlined, right? If you actually have a buyer and they are legitimately pre-approved, and for the sake of the conversation, really all loan types, as long as the house qualifies for, you know, meets the proper safety protocols and condition for a government loan, it doesn't matter that it's a cash buyer or a $300,000 cash buyer or a $300,000 FHA buyer. The money to the seller is exactly the same. And often is where we run into it is, you know, when we meet with cash buyers, and they're like, well, I'm going to be a cash buyer. I'm going to offer $50,000 less, blah, blah. It doesn't work like that. The only benefits, let's talk about the benefits to a cash buyer, right, is you can waive the appraisal price. Well, you can also do that getting a loan. Now, are most people going to do it in this market? No. But in 21, I had people do it all the time. They're getting an FHA loan. It's mainly more conventional because they got more money. But, you know, conventional, 20% down, you know, went at 30,000 above and said, hey, we're waiving the appraisal, which we didn't waive the financing contingency, which means they still have to get financing, but they've already been approved, and for a lot of times through underwriting. So it's not very likely you'll have a fall through. But a lot of the cash buyers just think, oh, I have cash, I can lowball them. No. Loans these days are going to close in 30 days. I mean, I actually know like a good lender, and if it's not even really a good lender, it's more of a good buyer that gets the lender documents with speed. Because a lot of times what happens is lender goes to the buyer and they say, hey, the underwriter needs all these documents and all these proofs and all these things. And that buyer takes 1 to 2 weeks to get it to them. And that's why we have a 30-day close. If the lender went and said, hey, we need these documents, and the buyer was able to get to that same day, you probably could have like 21-day closings, no problem. But it's not so much a lot of times the lender delaying. Now, are there sucky lenders that delay and don't do their job and wait till last minute and don't know the documents and all that? Yes, absolutely. But for the most part, I'll say from my experience and seeing it, most of the time it's the delay of the buyer getting the documents, or just the lender not knowing what the hell they're doing. One of the two. But a cash buyer, you know, if you're going above asking price, and you're paying more for the home than what it's worth, sure, it probably means something there, right? Plus, you can probably close in 10 to 14 days. So you do have a quicker close, right? Doesn't have to get appraised necessarily, but a cash buyer, and we've done them, can still say, here's $300,000 cash, but I'm still doing an appraisal. It's still contingent on appraisal value. They can still do it. So again, it's not, and odds are they're still going to do an inspection. So, you know, I'm doing this video more so just to let people know that, yes, you know, cash is great. And it's usually makes things a little easier and quick, but it doesn't mean, like, you know, if I'm working with a seller and we have a $300,000 conventional loan buyer, or we have a $280,000 cash buyer, we're taking the $300,000 conventional as long as we think it can appraise at $300,000. It's not even a question. And really, like, where does that number start making sense? And I think it's going to be a preference. situation? Do you want something that's more money, maybe a little bit more risk, a little longer closing, or do you want less money, a little bit peace of mind? We can close this in 10, 14 days, get your money and move on. Like, it's situational. But I can tell you, if I'm selling a property, all right, we just did our first flip home, and we were selling it. And if I had 2 offers in place and one was a cash buyer, and I think it was like, I'm just going to say 250 for ease of numbers, and I had a buyer that was at 250 and I know it could appraise there. Then I had a cash buyer 245. I'm like, $5,000. I honestly, I'm going to take the 250 offer. Just because the other one's cash, that's still $5,000 less dollars. I don't get any more money. My fees are still the same as a seller, no matter what loan type or cash that the person's using. So that's where you get into preferences. And I have beat cash buyers multiple times with buyers getting a loan, and this is again more so in 21. But I've done it. And I've also, on the flip side, right, been beat with all cash buyers and, somebody took a loan, because you can still do things. But right now, financing today is not what it was, let's just say even pre-2008, obviously with all the changes. But if you actually get somebody who's using a respected lender, here's the key, respected lender, and your agent should be able to shield you from the shit ones. But a respected lender, and you got a good pre-approval, I can tell you, our preferred lenders, if they're even on the fence that something might happen, they'll call me and say, Steven, give me another couple days. I got to look into something. I got to get something. But I have yet to, with our lenders, them do a pre-approval and then us get under contract and fall through due to financing. It's just not happened. So they're very well respected. The names of, their personal names and their company names are very well respected when we get that pre-approval. So just keep that in mind, whether you're a buyer or seller, the days of lowball cash offers and make sense, it's not, if you have 2 offers to compare, right, what does that look like? And I can tell you that, a good pre-approval is about as good as cash these days, as long as you think it's going to appraise there, right? So hope you have a great Sunday. Enjoy as always. If you got questions, real estate, insurance, holler anytime.